Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. An important issue which needs to be discussed and analyzed is the fact that it is generally thought and considered that Islam prohibits friendship with non-Muslims. And in general, certain verses of the Quran are quoted, and these quotations are very explicit. They say that one should not make friends with Jews and Christians. And the words themselves are very clear in this matter. And therefore, if that verse is read and it's concluded upon, then it's absolutely certain that people can come to the conclusion that friendship with Jews and Christians is prohibited. Now, I'll read out that verse to you, and I'll also read out some other verses which will clarify the fact that this is not so. And the category of Jews and Christians which these verses are speaking are an entirely different category, and they do not relate to the Jews and Muslims which we find around ourselves today. Now, the primary verse which is generally put forward to solicit the fact that Islam or the Quran prohibits friendship with non-Muslims, in particular Jews and Christians, is this verse. It is in Surah Ma'idah, verse 51. It says, Ya ayyuhal lazina amanu, la tattakhizul yahuda wan nasara awliya. Believers, take not these Jews and Christians for your friends. Now, if this verse is isolated from other verses, then of course we have to reach the conclusion that the Quran wants us to not make friends with Jews and Christians. Now, if we consider and study this verse in the light of some other verses of the Quran, it becomes absolutely certain that the Jews and Christians which are discussed here are not ordinary Jews and Christians. They are not everyday Jews and Christians. They are Christians or Jews who had deliberately denied the truth, who are called kafir by the Quran. So in the times of the Prophet, since it was possible to ascertain who the kafirs were and who were the people who had deliberately denied the Quran, so therefore the Quran prohibited friendship with those Jews and Christians. And I just read out that one of the verses which says so. The verse says, "La yattakhizul mu'minun al-kafirina awliya'a min dunil mu'minin." Believers should not make friends with the kuffar against the interest of the believers. So it is absolutely certain that the first verse which says that believers should not make friends with Jews and Christians has to be interpreted in the light of this verse, which says that believers should not make friends with these kuffar. In other words, the Jews and Christians of those times, since it could be ascertained about them that they are the kuffar or people who had deliberately denied the truth, so therefore friendship was prohibited with them. Today, we have no means of ascertaining whether a non-Muslim is a kafir or not. So therefore, this verse or these verses which relate to non-Muslim friendship have no bearing upon the Jews and Muslims Jews and Christians that we find around us today. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات.